Well, I was born and raised on a dairy farm, and we had no military influence around our community at all. Very seldom ever saw a military person. So I had no idea that I would ever be in the military. Had no desire, and really had no reason to be curious about serving my country. My grade school teacher, who taught me from the first grade to the 8th grade, was actually my inspiration that taught me the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. She taught me to love my country and in some way influenced my thinking that I owe something for the freedoms that I enjoy every day. So I grew up during grade school with that kind of thinking. My mother and father did not participate in any kind of activities. We had no church in the community. We didn't go anywhere or do anything except work the farm. Then we had a couple fellows in the community who, because they didn't like farm work, they joined the Marine Corps. And in those days, they got one 30-day furlough a year. So when they got their furloughs, they would come back, not at the same time, but separate times. I'm 12, 13 years old. When they came in, they were always in their dress blues because the Marine Corps was trying to still make a name for itself. So they were always in spit-shine shoes and tall and very polite. And they were always saying yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and that type thing. We kids would hang out with them as much as they would let us. And they would tell us some stories that probably all were not true, of battles they'd been in and things that they had done. So it was certainly very entertaining. So I guess somewhere in the recess of my mind, I said, if I ever go in the military, that's what I want to be. Seldom would we ever see any other type military person. So when Pearl Harbor was struck on December the 7th, 1941, living in the community, we had no radio, we had no newspaper. The only information we got basically was what people brought in to us. And the word was that somebody is trying to take our freedom. I was 17 years old and wanted to go in the Marine Corps because of the influence of those two Marines from our community. But my mother, who was a widow, would not sign my paper to permit me to go, so I couldn't go until I was 18. When I was 18 years old, just a month after I reached my 18th birthday, becoming a man, as we thought back in those days, something magical was supposed to happen at 18 because then you're no longer a boy, you're no longer a kid, you are now a man. So I went into the Marine Corps to enlist. And of course, people in the community were going in all branches of the service, volunteering as fast as they could. And when I went in and spoke to the Marine, whatever he was, I don't even remember whether he was a sergeant or whatever, I just knew he was the Marine. And I filled out my paper and handed it to him, and he didn't even look at my paper. He just looked at me and shook his head. Said, "Can't take you." And I was very disappointed because I had made up my mind I wanted to protect America, do my part to keep our freedom. And I naturally said, "Why?" And he said, "You are too short." So I went on back to the farm. At that point in time, I decided that if I can't go in the Marine Corps, I won't go at all. But shortly after that time, the Marine Corps removed a height requirement that they had had on for a number of years, that you had to be 5'8" or better in order to get into the Marine Corps. So they removed the height requirement totally and began taking shorter fellows, including runts like me. So that sergeant, or whatever he was, that Marine, kept those papers, I guess, of individuals that had been turned down because of height. And anyway, he looked me up and asked me if I was still interested in going in the Marine Corps. And at that time, our counties in our state were permitted to send 2 Marines a month to the Marine Corps. And I was selected to go into the Corps. To show you how little I knew about the world and what we were really going to get involved in, my idea was that we were going to be something like the Civil War people. We're going to form a group of people all the way around this country, shoulder to shoulder. And anybody who tries to come to take our freedom from America, we are not going to let them do it. That's how little I knew. Pearl Harbor didn't mean a bit more to me than anything. I didn't actually realize there was a Pacific Ocean. I didn't know that. But shortly after I got into the Marine Corps, I learned an awful lot of things. And I learned that it was an organization that drew us closer together than I had ever been to any of my brothers, and I had a number of them. And there were 11 in our family. 3 of us went into the military. 2 of them went to Europe. I went to the Pacific. The one brother was in the Battle of the Bulge and was beat up very badly. He didn't live long after he came back from World War II. The other brother was a little more fortunate. He got stationed in Germany in a supply depot, and he never, fortunately, saw combat. But I have said to many individuals over the years of speaking to youths and schools and groups that my teacher, Naoma Morgan, instilled in me that I did owe something to America. And that was my effort to serve her. And I still feel that way today. I feel that we should have some kind of service, not necessarily military. Not everybody is geared to be a military person. But I feel that every graduate of a high school who is physically able, mentally and physically, that they ought to contribute something to the freedom that they enjoy, paid for by the blood and lives of other people. They owe America something. And I feel we should have some form of compulsory service, that they would serve their government in some way. I was fortunate that just before trying to get into the Marine Corps, I joined the Civilian Conservation Corps. I didn't join it because of patriotism. I joined it to earn $30 a month because I couldn't get that at home. There was no money coming to me from the farm. So I joined that, and that helped me tremendously once I entered the Marine Corps. I had a little better idea of what the military was about because it was kind of quasi-military. We wore uniforms, we didn't march, we didn't carry weapons, but we did do formations. We ate in a mess hall. We could be penalized or punished if we did something wrong because the Army ran the camp and the civilians ran the work effort off the base. So that helped me. When I got in the Marine Corps, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. In those days, they didn't give you a whole lot of choice of what you wanted to do in the way of a military occupational specialty. So I was selected to be a flamethrower demolition operator. Knew nothing about either. The Marine Corps was very new in 1943. We hadn't used it up until that time. But I was selected to be a part of that program. And when I got to Iwo Jima, it was one of the more effective weapons of Iwo Jima because of the 16 miles of tunnel that they had tunneled out in that island, of the great number of caves and holes in the ground that they had that they could pop up and kill Marines and then disappear. flamethrowers, demolitions were very effective weapons in eliminating those problems. I'm extremely proud of the fact that my commanding officer and 4 other Marines were thought I was worthy enough and did a duty on February the 23rd, 1945, that they would sign a document recommending me for the Medal of Honor. When I wear it, I do not wear it for what I did. I wear it for those Marines who never got to come home, and especially 2 Marines who gave their lives on that February the 23rd protecting mine. So I have said from the day one, it does not belong to me. It belongs to them. I'm very proud of the possession of the Medal of Honor. It had a tremendous impact and changed my life and, in effect, made me a role model that I didn't necessarily want. But the Commandant of the Marine Corps, the day after I received it, told me very forcefully, as he told other Marines, that medal does not belong to you. It belongs to all of those Marines who never got to come home, and don't ever do anything that would tarnish that medal. I have attempted to live my life to where I would not in any way tarnish the medal I wear around my neck.